Hello and welcome to the new episode, the new episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies. We're back again. It's the reboot of the reboot, Dakota. Or is it a sequel?
The sequel reboot. We're back, man.
What was that term where it's a reboot and a sequel? Requel. What an awful term.
We're
the requel.
I'm going to throw this out there. It makes so much sense we came back this year because
everything else is.
I'll point this out later. There's a franchise that just refuses to die, and I feel like it gets rebooted every so many years.
Well, that's because the antagonist in it also refuses to die.
That's right. Just like everyone wants Michael Myers to keep Michael Myersing, the Dakota Boys have to keep Dakota Boysing.
Speaking of Michael Myers, Mike Myers kind of had a little bit of a comeback, or tried to have a comeback again this year, but unfortunately it's a movie that is being deemed a little controversial because David O. Russell is still hated. That Amsterdam movie. I feel bad for Mike Myers. He keeps thinking he's going to have a comeback, and then it doesn't quite work. Like,
I when I heard about this movie, I was like, okay, was this an idea he had in like the 90s?
It feels like a 90s movie.
Which, Speaking of which, 90s movies that are currently being made now, really loved Black Adam. I had to think about it, but I was like, man, I actually enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, well, and I guess to kind of set up for a comeback episode here, we're just gonna kind of go over the year a little bit because it was essentially the end of last year was the last time we did an episode, so we're just gonna kind of go through 2022 so far, some of the movies we've seen, some of the lows, and then I don't know. There were a little more highs than I realized when I was kind of going back. Where and I mean it's not like they were real high, but they were highs. They were at least movies that were enjoyable and fun, and or had something in it that was redeemable. And so I think we're gonna go over. I know Dakota teased a little Black Adam there, but we're gonna go over a few of maybe our lows.
Okay, let's be clear. If you're listening to this, you know this. It was a real peaks and valleys type year.
Yeah.
The lows were lows. The highs were pretty high.
There were a few high highs, yeah.
No one anticipated Top Gun making like $1 billion. Absolutely no one.
No.
Not even Tom Cruise saw that coming.
No, I don't think he did. I think he was just, well, he always seems excited, but I think he was just excited that it was able to get released because it was kind of sitting not on a back burner, but just kind of waiting at the starting line for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And so I think he was just happy to get it out. It did end up, I think, though, Top Gun doing so well is why, it still is doing well because now it's out on digital and stuff. Probably why the Mission Impossible movies got pushed another year.
Yeah.
Kind of spread out the love because those are expected to be.
I mean,
big.
Isn't this crazy though? Like Christopher Nolan last year, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna bring people back to the theater, man."
Yeah.
Dune's gonna bring people back to the theater.
Yeah. In the one, to look at the Warner Brothers, the Warner Brothers model of same day, and the one that did the best, I think, was Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah, that was actually a really good movie.
Yeah,
though.
which that was a 2021 movie.
Yeah,
and it was a really, really solid movie. I think was kind of supposed to be like the bow on top, but now of course they just teased that the MonsterVerse is going to keep going.
Okay, anything that makes a lot of money is going to get a sequel nowadays.
Yeah. All right. So Dakota, let's hit a low. What do you got as kind of maybe a little bit of a low for you?
Okay, I am going to start with the biggest low I think on my list, and that is the remake of Pinocchio.
I never watched it, and honestly, it was because it looked like a nothing movie.
Okay, I got invited to a friend's house for dinner one night, And as we're eating, he's like, "Hey, I'll put a movie on," and he chose this. I would not normally choose a movie like this, another Disney remake of a classic movie to watch. But I was forced. I felt compelled to stay just because it was my friend and he'd made me dinner. I was like, we got to see this through. And oh, man.
We gotta see this through, like the movie or what?
Yeah. It's just, I struggled to get through this, man. It's like, can we just fast forward through this part? This movie brought nothing new to the table. Okay, I'm just going to come out here and say this. The puppet was borderline pretty creepy.
It looked a lot like the cartoon.
Yeah,
in the trailers I saw.
They tried to do the cartoon Pinocchio in like live action, like an actual 3 dimensions, and it just looked weird. He walked weird. I wasn't down for Joseph Gordon-Levitt's voice as the cricket. Like, what, bro? What were you doing? Like, what were you doing?
Did he sing the Star Song? Because that's a high note in that song. If he sang it the way that the original singer sang it.
No, but it just there was nothing redeeming about this movie. I cannot believe Disney pumped movie money into this movie. Like, why? Why would you do this? And they drug Tom Hanks into it, and it's like, was this just the payday for him?
Well, I would guess it had to do with the director. Because didn't Zemeckis do it?
Yeah.
I would guess that's what kind of got Hanks in.
Man, he is, speaking of which, Zemeckis is so far from his heyday. Does he even know what he's doing anymore? It's like
since Castaway? Debatable.
It's like the lights are on, but no one's home.
Yeah.
He is so far away from his Who Framed Roger Rabbit days. I think I lost faith in him as a director after this. It was just, why? Why is this, it wasn't even fun. It wasn't fun. There was nothing really to redeem this movie. I can't even think of a single good point, but there are so many bad ones.
Okay.
Just
yeah.
That is, like I said, the lowest of the low. I'm trying to think of other movies that were on par with as bad as this was, and I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Yeah, and I guess I can't compare because I didn't see it, but one that really disappointed me because I did have a certain level of expectation was Death on the Nile.
Okay.
And this was one where I'm a huge Hercule Poirot fan. Obviously the David Suchet show / TV movies are that's pinnacle Poirot, but Peter Ustinov played the character well in the late 70s, and I believe maybe even in the 80s was one or two of the ones Ustinov did. He was a good Poirot too. And I wasn't a huge fan of Murder on the Orient Express. And with that being said, I'm referring to the Kenneth Branagh one. That was kind of the first one of this new bunch that he's doing in his Poirot. And part of it was that I'm really struggling with his portrayal of Poirot with some of it. But I kind of got over that, and Murder on the Orient Express was fine. I still prefer the Albert Finney Poirot Murder on the Orient Express, but it was still fine. But this new one, this Death on the Nile, got really wrapped up in this, giving Poirot this, getting really into this World War I traumatized veteran backstory that I was just really like, I don't know. I just felt like that was really out of place and was really like disconnected from the rest of the movie. Was some of the problem anyway?
Yeah. I thought this was okay. And there's
just a long pause.
Okay, it's not a terrible movie, but at the same time, I just didn't care about the people in this movie.
Yeah, and that was the biggest problem, was that it was shot well, um, but even the people that you were supposed to care about, or maybe were kind of tricked into thinking you're supposed to care about, you kind of didn't. Like, I don't know, like everybody seemed like they were cast right. It was just, I don't know, it's just nothing. It had a funny flow to it. Maybe that was some of it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're gonna have a beautiful, wealthy woman, yeah, I would cast Gal Gadot too. It made sense, you know. I mean, like, and I think all the casting around her, you know, I know there's the whole Army Hammer issues or whatever, you know, but his part was pretty minimal, and I thought the part he had was still fine, and maybe it was good because he was a jerk. So that's what people want to think about him anyway. But I don't know. It just, yeah, it wasn't like I detest this movie, I hate it, but it was over, and I was like, it kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I know Poirots maybe aren't supposed to end on a happy note, but you kind of it ended so just darkly sad that I'm just like, I don't really want to go into this particular Poirot world again.
Well, for me, it's not that it ended darkly. It's just all these Perot stories are supposed to be mysteries, and was there a mystery in this movie?
Well,
really?
You know, and that was the other issue, was that, yeah, not not a Poirot level mystery. I don't know. It was just funny. It was just funny. I don't know. What do you
funny, not in the good way. I mean,
just strange funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do you have? What was another one that kind of didn't quite hit right for you, Dakota?
well, we're going for the obvious one. Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, same. That I don't know if this is my biggest disappointment of the year, because I wasn't sure what to expect of it anyway. But yeah, it missed the mark.
Okay, here's the problem. There's about 3 movies worth of material in this. They just jammed it into one movie.
Three partial movies that they because it was like unfinished.
Had it just been Thor trying to get his mojo back, running around with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And here's the thing. Allegedly, Marvel is listening to the fans. Why couldn't Galactus been the villain in this? They got the rights. Disney now owns the rights to.
Are they trying to save him for something?
I don't know, but it's like, man, just go. Okay, this is what I loved about Spider-Man: No Way Home. It gave us what we wanted. And another movie we're going to talk about later, Doctor Strange absolutely did not give us what we wanted. And so did this. It's like, man, how do you screw this up?
Yeah.
Because if you, at the end of Endgame, Avengers Endgame, I was so ready for this. Like, oh, Thor's going to be running around with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yay. That should have been the movie.
Yes.
Dealing with, giant space entities that are going to just... You could have brought Peter Quill back to Earth, which... the last Guardians of the Galaxy, you saw his grandpa is still alive.
Yeah.
Like, his grandpa's got to be like, hey, man, really wish my grandson was here. Hope he's okay. And he's just out there living his best life. Like, grandpa who? Like, you could have had, like, a little moment where, he came back to Earth. Galactus is trying to destroy Earth. You could have, I don't know, had Silver Surfer in there somewhere.
Well, yes. Why didn't they do, like, they set up this whole as Guardians of the Galaxy type idea, and then essentially did nothing with it. And so it's like, what was the point?
Yeah.
And so it did feel like a real missed opportunity.
Yeah, and then...
And it ended up being frustrated because of that.
I feel like Jane Foster if you're going to go with that storyline, she should have got her own movie.
And that was weird, because it was like she was front seat and back seat at the same time, and I don't even know if that makes sense. And so, but it does when you watch the movie, and I think it's your thing where they just crammed so much.
Yeah. And because, okay, I am actually a comic book nerd. I'm not like the rest of you out there.
Oh, guys, you don't even know how nerd he is. Just sitting here in his horn-rimmed glasses.
Gore.
Dakota, is that a pocket protector?
Yes, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Gore the God Butcher, I think, is one of my favorite villains
Mm.
from newer comics. He's right up there with Atrocitus the Red Lantern. That is how much I.
Which you are also a big Green Lantern fan.
Yes, absolutely. But I loved the way he was written in the comics, and
So for
man,
anyone wondering what would be a good Thor storyline to jump into in the comics to like get this Gore God Butcher you enjoyed?
well, he had a good run by Jason Aaron,
Jason Aaron?
who
Okay.
also he wrote. I'm a huge fan of Scalped. He was behind that.
Oh,
He
I do remember you telling me about that one too. Yeah.
he wrote a kind of a sequel to the Wolverine Weapon X story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it takes, and I wasn't a big fan of that. And then he rolled out this, and I was like, man, this dude, for a guy who's not known for, say, more fantastical storytelling, he knocked it out of the park. He added so much to the Thor mythos.
So is he the writer and artist, or is he just a writer?
He's just the writer.
Just the writer?
I'm gonna, because the movie didn't do Gore any justice, I'm gonna break it down for you. Gore comes from this planet. It's desolate, like just desolate. His people struggle to find water, food. As a child, his mom and him go to like this pilgrimage to like make an offering to the gods, and he's just a child at this point. His mom gets attacked by these. The only thing I could describe them as demon wolves. Like they just look incredibly demonic, and they attack his mother and kill him, and she buys time for him to run away. So there's your first kind of leeway into the fact that okay, probably doesn't have the best opinion of the gods
Yeah.
because his mother, sacrificed.
Which they did attempt to kind of set that up in the movie, but it was very just they were just I don't know. There was a lot of things that were just rushed, and so
Yeah.
it didn't feel like they meant anything.
Yeah, in the comics, he has a son who unfortunately dies, and he has a pregnant wife who also dies, not at the same time, but over a period of time. Eventually, it gets to the point where he's just like, "There are no gods," which it's like at that point, you gotta give it to him. It's like they live in such a hellscape. Like apparently the sun is just constantly on them. They're struggling to find food all the time. He's lost everyone he loves. And basically his tribe, his community, they're like, "Hey, that's sacrilege, man. You got to go. You got to go. You're an offense. You're going to cause us even more chaos to come down upon us." So he leaves. And then this is what the movie tried to do. Eventually he's just out on his own. And literally the gods fall out of the sky. You have a very angelic looking one, gold armor, just very, very statuesque. And then you have a just kind of one that looks like something out of hell. It's like it's got this black armor. They fall to earth. Apparently they were doing battle, and they were both grievously injured. This is when the sword comes into play.
Mm.
I forget what they call it in the movie, but
Yeah, I don't know. The God Killer sword. I
Yeah.
don't know.
yeah, but so he's like, "Oh my gosh, the gods are real. Oh, I was so wrong." And then he gets angry and he's like, "Well, okay, you guys exist, but you've let all this horrible stuff happen to us."
Mm.
And then the sword, because it's pure evil, it calls to him, and the angelic looking god is asking him for help, and he takes the sword and he just outright murders him.
Hmm.
I feel like that should have been a whole movie. I would have totally been down with it
So it would have been just like essentially a gore movie.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're never gonna do that.
yeah. I
That's unfortunate.
and eventually he comes across Thor, and there's more story, but man, he was so well written. He deserved his own movie, and they got Christian Bale. They got Christian Bale, and they wasted him.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's like that when I watched the movie, he's who I felt the most bad for, because it felt like he was trying to put his all into this movie. Like he was trying. Like the only time I felt anything when watching this movie was he was involved. I felt nothing for the Jane Foster storyline. I felt nothing for Thor. Valkyrie it's worthless. That whole scene where they go to that place where the gods are just hanging out doing nothing, could have taken that out of the movie and it wouldn't have changed anything. It was just so just so many, like you said, and maybe it's because they just crammed all these things, but there's so much wasted opportunities. And then, like you said, the one good opportunity they had is just so blatantly wasted because Christian Bale, like, I don't know, he went out and he was promoting it. Like, I don't know, did he watch the movie? Because it's like, did he watch it and go, oh no?
Well, I think
this movie's not deserving of what I did.
I think he kind of knew, but he's such a professional. He's like, okay, I'm in this. I gotta.
It just makes you wonder how bad the environment must have been on Terminator Salvation, that he lost it making that movie, but didn't just punch Taika Waititi like to just bits.
Well, allegedly, and this is all secondhand information, he kind of had like a mini breakdown. If you watch like some of the behind the scenes stuff from The Hobbit,
Okay.
Ian McKellen, he's just totally acting on a green screen by himself.
Oh yeah, he basically, yeah, he said it was soul killing.
Yeah, and he just had like a mini breakdown, and his mic was live, so Peter Jackson could hear him, and I think allegedly he had like the same experience where he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine, being like a traditional actor and then you're going back and playing a character you've played before, but the first time around you were in such a even though there's a lot of CGI obviously in the Lord of the Rings, they still did a lot of tangible environments. And then to come back and do that just had to be like crushing. And it was like rushed and there was barely a script. I mean,
it had to be night and day for him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had to just he and Peter, well, and Peter Jackson, I don't know, to another degree, probably really were the two that probably felt it the most, just that difference between the two experiences.
And that movie broke Peter Jackson, man. He hasn't done anything since.
Yeah, he's done a couple documentaries.
I think we're way worse off. I mean, Weta Workshop is still getting work because they're now that Lucasfilm is kind of owned by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing all the effects for the DC movies.
Yeah. Now the Disney kind of now that they have kind of a little more control over that. Yeah, it does seem like Weta Digital is doing more work with some of those other companies, which it's nice that they were able to kind of come to be and really all that was created out of making the original Lord of the Rings or whatever. But yeah, I think we are really missing a good director in Peter Jackson, the fact that he is just a broken man. I mean, I didn't watch the Beatles documentary stuff. I hear it was really good. But his World War I documentary was outstanding. Yes,
that was awesome filmmaking. Anyway, back on topic. This whole movie, I've seen Thor: Love and Thunder twice, and
I'm sorry.
I think that's it. I think I got everything out of it that I needed to. Yeah. On the plus side, Taika Waititi is now done at Disney. Hopefully.
Is he still doing that Star Wars thing?
Here's the thing. No one ever does the Star Wars thing they're supposed to.
That's very true. They bring you in, get everyone really excited, and then they throw you out.
I am still pretty upset that Patty Jenkins got kicked off the
Isn't it? And what happened there? That you do this whole teaser to a teaser of her on an aircraft carrier talking about she's going to make the dogfight movie of all dogfight movies, and it's going to be in honor of her dad, who was a pilot. And then you're just like, we're not doing it. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Thanks, Kathleen Kennedy. You really know how to how to disappoint people.
And I would assume she was the one who wanted to hype it, but maybe just didn't get the total okay from Disney. I don't know what happened there. Anyway,
well, here's the thing though.
It's not happening.
Colin Trevorrow's script for the third Star Wars sequel movie is out there.
Yeah.
And that movie is like, the script is awesome, man. The intro was great.
Yeah, I've only caught some bits and pieces, but yeah, from what I saw and from what I've heard, that it would have been at least a more interesting movie, even if it wouldn't have been the perfect finale.
Yeah, the intro is basically they steal a Star Destroyer.
Yeah,
like that would have been awesome.
That would have been cool.
But yeah, I think. All right, man. I'm just gonna come out and say this. For me, Star Wars is done.
So there's just a couple I want to bring up quick that, well, I don't know. Maybe now that I think about it, they're not really terribly shocking. I don't know. One that this movie was a hit though, but I thought it was a real miss. This is more in the family entertainment. Was Minions: Rise of Gru.
Oh, it sucks.
I thought that was a real miss.
Well,
and I don't know, and it's not even Minion burnout. I'm not one of those people where I'm like, if I see another Minion, I'm gonna go on him. I'm gonna be a terrorist, or I don't know, whatever people say now. It was just kind of nothing. Like it's not. Maybe it is the Minions, because part of it is that all the jokes felt like I've seen them before. I had hope that maybe since Steve Carell was coming back and it was going to be like a young Gru, that was going to kind of, because I feel like the reason the other Minions movie didn't work was that it didn't have Gru. But now I'm wondering if the reason it didn't work was that the Despicable Me movies are kind of a continuation of a villain really coming around to not being a villain, but in the process of that, becoming a better dad. Well, becoming a dad. And then in the second movie, the family, after their family now gaining a mother, in the second movie. And so you're kind of building a family union. And then the third movie is kind of Gru facing himself a little bit, kind of facing his past, but and continuing forward with the new life he has in this family. And so there was like this whole kind of thing there, whereas I feel like these Minion movies is just like, it's just chaos and anarchy, but it means nothing. I don't know. It was just not good. But maybe that wasn't surprising. But I feel like it was a hit, wasn't it?
It certainly had a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it did box office wise.
Yeah. And this is just real quickly, too. There was another family movie that I thought was a real kind of dud, and it was League of Super Pets.
What?
Did not enjoy that. I thought it was so boring. It was just nothing. It didn't make any sense, and it was just like, what is this? I couldn't even figure out who this was for, because I was like, I don't know. And even so when I say who this is for, okay, so you go, okay, it's a kids movie, so I guess it's for kids. My kids will stare at anything on a screen, and they were. Mostly my daughters were, because there was animals and they just want animals. But I could tell, like, they were getting a little glazy. Like, they didn't care. They were kind of finishing it because it was animals and not because they cared. I don't know. Did you like it?
I did. I laughed, I think, more than I thought I should have.
Yeah, I didn't. There weren't really any jokes that really landed for me.
Oh, man. See, there were so many moments. As a whole, I thought this movie, it felt a little too long, and
That was some of it.
the whole Crypto and Ace kind of dynamic felt like like they really, really were trying to like draw it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot I liked in this movie. I wasn't a fan of the designs of some of the heroes.
Yeah, it was funny design, but it was a cartoon. You kind of let some of
Yeah.
that go.
Yeah, like I don't know why Batman looked like that, but I love the fact that he was voiced by Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, there was a wasted opportunity too. I felt like that could have been anybody.
Yeah.
And Superman 2 was like, that could have been anybody. It didn't need to be John Krasinski.
It didn't even really sound like John Krasinski. That's the thing. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It just felt like a lot of that. Did in one of the parts where I was like, who is this for? Because it's like, trying to grasp if it's for kids or adults, was that the turtle. They actually had the bleeps in the movie because the turtle was always like swearing pretty harshly.
it was only a couple times, Steven. Come
But
on.
it was just like strange because I'm just like, what is this movie? I couldn't even like, it's hard to wrap my head around what this even was. I don't know. Do you want to go for some highs now?
Okay, okay, back on the Super Pets thing.
Oh, okay.
I just thought it was a lighthearted kind of little romp.
To me, it was more of a light farted.
Like I said, there were moments I thought were great. I do love how the fact that Lex Luthor is still Lex Luthor in this movie. Like he's just
Yeah, that's true. My kids were very confused because they're like, why does Lex Luthor sound like the Snake from The Bad Guys? And I'm like, because it is. Because it was Mark Maron.
Yeah.
He was also Snake in The Bad Guys.
But there's a lot of stuff I actually enjoyed in this. When Soups leaves Crypto in the apartment and he's jamming out to Taylor Swift eating the ice cream, I was laughing so hard at that. Way more than I should have. I'm like, okay, what is going on? And the kind of oh my gosh.
Juxtaposition?
Yes, the okay. Apparently I cannot speak today.
Wait, try one more time.
Juxtaposition.
Oh, he couldn't do it.
Okay, the scene between Batman and Ace, oh man, I love that scene where it's like they're just so dark and brooding. They're telling their backstories, even though we've already gone over their backstories. It
100
was awesome.
times.
Yeah, it was awesome. I did like some of the voice work in this too, like Natasha Lyonne is the
swearing turtle.
like. Yeah, I wasn't sure if she was supposed to be portraying an elderly person, but
it sounded like maybe an old lady trying to do an old lady. Diego Luna was the squirrel, right?
yeah, did not sound like Diego Luna at all, though.
Just enough. There was just a little flare there that I realized who it was, but yeah, I think it's time to get out of the muck. Let's get some highs. Maybe we'll stick on topic because one of my highs being The Batman.
Oh,
Came out back in March.
I was gonna say if you say the black phone, I'm gonna throw something at you.
I'm not gonna say that. The Batman.
Man, this feels like a movie that came out a year ago, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, 8 months. 8 months ago.
No, it feels much farther than that, and I feel like that was kind of it for a while, wasn't it? There was no real big releases.
Yeah, it's probably yeah.
And I know usually January, February, March, there's nothing, but it really felt like it this year where there was absolutely nothing.
Not too much as far as theaters, especially.
Yeah. But I like this movie a lot, but it really did overstay its welcome.
As far as length?
Yes.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
And here's the thing. Granted, the inspiration for this film was Zodiac.
Yeah, it definitely has that kind of feel to it.
Kind of the same way The Dark Knight, the inspiration for that was Heat, thematically.
Yeah. Yep.
But just like that movie, it's kind of a slog, man. I really feel like too much time was just kind of wasted going into stuff that didn't eventually matter.
Mm.
And once again, comic book nerd here, huge comic book nerd. That's not the Riddler.
No,
It's another.
I mean,
It's another Batman villain named Anarchy. That's who essentially the Riddler is in that film. He's Anarchy. He's not the Riddler.
I mean, I guess you could spin it as like it was a different take on the Riddler, kind of like when you look at Scott Snyder's New 52 run, how a lot of people hated that Joker, and they're just like, well, this isn't the Joker. He's not the Joker because that Joker was almost like a sadist, masochist serial killer, and I think a lot of people are like, well, that's not who the Joker is, and so maybe you could do the same thing with this movie. It's like, well, this is a different take on the Joker, where what if the Joker grew up in the same type of setting ish to Bruce Wayne, went a different direction, and then found his people through social media. I mean, it was kind of like, so I think the idea was that then you kind of had this, it gave you kind of the dichotomy, the juxtaposition, as you would say, of where it led to with the Riddler confronting Batman and being like, yeah, we're on the same team. You're going to be my boy now. Because I did think that the lead up to that was interesting, where they finally come together in that scene and the Riddler's like, hey, buddy, you ready to team up and really show this city what's what? And Batman's like, yeah, I'm not you. And the Riddler's just crushed. I did think like, so I mean, you could argue that the way they use that to kind of explain this Batman was interesting.
There was just so much. I feel like I have a little too many criticisms of the movie, personally, to actually think this is. People are saying like, "Oh my god, this is like one of the best movies I've ever seen." Being a huge Batman fan, I am nowhere near close to being that way. It's a little long. The kind of third act comes out of nowhere. Like, oh, he planted bombs against the sea. What? There's a seawall in this? Why wasn't this brought up before? It's
a superhero movie. You always got to have something come out of left field in the third act.
I mean, here's the thing. The next movie is 3 years away.
And it's 3 years?
Yeah, it's 2025 is what they're aiming for.
Oh,
and
boy.
Here's the thing. This movie was not that good, where I'm not marking the date on my calendar already, like 2025, man. The year of awesomeness, man.
In my house, my son, I'm pretty sure, has Across the Spider-Verse and the Super Mario Brothers movie both marked he's very anticipating those two. But yeah,
he's young.
Well, I mean, I'm excited for, but yeah, the Batman too, like.
And then,
even me being shocked right now, even though I liked this movie, yeah, it wasn't like such a mind-blowing movie that I have to know exactly when the next one's coming out, which is why I guess I was surprised. I didn't realize it's 2025. I thought it was like 24 maybe or something.
No, and then another criticism. This is a criticism levied at the director. He is so staunchly like, okay, if we do anything in our Batman movies, it's got to be grounded. It's got to be realistic. Okay, very briefly, we touched on a Batman that was kind of pretty far out there. Like he's taking on armed goons. He's like, Killer Croc showed up, and it's like, man, I liked that. Like, don't try to stay grounded. And here's another thing I'm going to throw out there. There are so many missed opportunities when it comes to Batman movies. You can have a body horror movie as Man-Bat being the villain, and I think this director would actually do a really good job making that movie. Like, I'd like to see that movie.
It would be interesting to see to do a movie with Man-Bat, because I think there's a lot you could do with that.
Like, I don't want to see his take on Mr. Freeze, because I know he's gonna ruin it.
Oh boy, yeah, and that's why we got to get out of this. like in the comic book world, you can read 3 different Batman books at the same time, 3 different Daredevils. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I wish they wouldn't be so committed to like, well, this is our Batman now for the next 15 years,
Yeah.
and he has to connect because I don't mind this world of Batman, but yeah, it's just too bad that we can't have another Batman world at the same time without it being like, well, that we do have another world of Batman, but it's a cartoon on HBO Max,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so it is kind of I understand your frustration because then it's like now this is the only Batman you're getting on the big screen for probably a decade.
I don't want to see a grounded version of Poison Ivy.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I do. That was my biggest worry, that they're gonna want to get Mr. Freeze back on the big screen again.
Yeah.
And I do worry that Matt Reeves could be one who would maybe want to do something with that. But it's like, but man, a grounded reality version of Mr. Freeze.
Okay, I'm throwing this out there. Not a fan of the Barry Coogan as the Joker. They released that. They released that little deleted scene, and it was just like, and this is another problem I have with Matt Reeves. Is he trying to out Christopher Nolan?
Possibly. I think the problem is that this is going to be the only Batman world. I don't know, but is it? I guess because they're committed to allowing Matt Reeves to do another Batman movie, but now that there's this new head of the DC universe, and they have this, he's kind of planned, James Gunn and I can't think of Sarnoff or something, that they're planning out this bigger picture thing for the foreseeable future. Do you think there is a possibility of still having another Batman? And because James Gunn might be one where if Warner Brothers lets him, I could see him being like, yeah, I think that'd be all right. If there's the Robert Pattinson Batman world, but then we still have this other Batman that maybe you do have connected to Superman, because Robert Pattinson's Batman can't be connected to Superman and all that stuff. It's just too different.
Yeah.
But I wonder if, being that there's this kind of new leadership, if they will allow there to be another Batman world.
Well, every time Ben Affleck says he's done, apparently he's not.
And I don't want Ben Affleck either.
Here's the thing.
It's too old, and it's just too many bad memories. Honestly,
here's the thing about this movie that I'm gonna point out. This movie was written by Peter Craig. Like this guy, you look at his screen credits, he is so grounded in his stuff. And then it's also co-written by Matt Reeves, and I am so over I have to write and direct at the same time. It's like, no, do one and do it really well. Like, I think had Peter Craig because this guy, if you look at his story credits, I feel like the best parts of this script are him. And then the worst parts, I feel like Matt Reeves interjected there. Like, we gotta go after Bruce Wayne, that privileged white boy.
Do you think having the extra time to tweak this movie maybe is why it is a drug out movie? Because Matt Reeves, I think, famously did say something. So at some point during the pandemic, he's like, it gave us extra time to kind of tweak things. And so I wonder if your biggest, I'm not saying your only gripes, but some of your biggest gripes are a product of having too much time to mess with it.
Well, here's the thing. Kind of just going back to James Gunn. This dude shot the Suicide Squad, edited it, had it ready to go. And he's like, no, it's in the can. I don't need to tinker with it. I don't need to add any socio-political commentary into this. I'm not trying to make it now, even though it kind of was, with a little bit about the U.S. interfering with other countries. But I feel like Matt Reeves, that's what he did. He's like, gotta inject the now into the movie, just like Christopher Nolan, man. It's like, okay, Christopher Nolan did this stuff, and then it happened. He wasn't injecting stuff that's going on right now into the movie.
Yeah.
He did it, and then it happened, and then he got praised as, oh, like even Christian Bale kind of called him like, he's like, he said something along the lines like, "Did you know? Did you know this was going to happen?" And of course, it's like, no, I just threw stuff at the wall and whatever stuck. You know.
I think the thing that we kind of miss with, and I think this goes back to Memento, Insomnia. If you just look at Christopher Nolan's body of work, as they say, I think he's someone who just has a pulse on humanity, and whether you necessarily agree with all that or not, is I think that's a lot of it. Because when you look at even his Batman trilogy and Memento and Interstellar, Inception, I think the reason it feels like he's putting in like his own commentary on the right now is just because he's just kind of looking at man and humanity and I think a lot of the things that mankind is best at are very cyclical. Like we come back to the same things. I mean, even when you look at the Joker's whole which boat you gonna pick, thing. I mean, things like that. It's kind of like you can see that Christopher Nolan enjoys just kind of looking at human nature. Memento the same way.
Yeah.
It's really just an unpacking of human nature in those ways. And so, I mean, I think that's maybe why he seems like, yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean, because then you have these other directors who think they're that, but they're really they're too on the nose, or it's too like eye rolling or something, or I don't know.
I cut Matt Reeves some slack just because I love his Planet of the Apes movies.
Oh, geez, yeah.
But he does come from the J.J. Abrams school
yeah.
of filmmaking.
I was waiting for you to bring this up because for those of you who are new to the podcast, Dakota has very strong feelings about J.J. Abrams.
He sucks. Everything he touches sucks.
He's the anti-Midas. Everything he touches turns to poop.
He's to quote the boys, he sees himself as the upgrade to Steven Spielberg, but to also quote the boys, he's just a cheap imitation. Mystery box. That's how we're gonna sell this film. Mystery box.
Hey, remember when after The Sixth Sense came out, M. Night Shyamalan was getting called the new Spielberg? That was an interesting minute.
Getting dubbed the new Spielberg, I think, is a curse.
It's a death sentence. Yeah,
because Neil Blomkamp, for a brief moment, people were
that's right, even shorter than Shyamalan. Yeah, Blomkamp. That was after, of course, District 9, and I was probably on the cusp of what was that second movie he did? Somewhere between
Elysium.
Somewhere between District 9 and Elysium, it was like, oh, he's got these things in the pipeline, and he's just kind of this new voice and this new take, and he, the sci-fi stuff. He's the new Spielberg. And then Elysium came out, and then Chappie came out, and then people are like, he slowly wasn't liked quite as much. Yeah, it is kind of a death sentence. I think part of it is that, and maybe even this year, people are realizing a little more with that Fabelmans movie coming out with Spielberg, is that Spielberg, I do not like all of his movies, but he is a unique, there just isn't going to be another Spielberg in the way we had Spielberg. Like, he was very unique in a lot of ways, and that's okay. That's okay.
I'm gonna throw this
just
out
like
there.
There's never going to be another Alfred Hitchcock. There just isn't.
Yeah.
Or Orson Welles. They're just these unique people who, in some cases, the reason they're unique is they were just the first to try something or the first to get away with something. And so you can't duplicate certain things like that.
I'd settle for a new age John Carpenter. I really would. a guy that believes in strong storytelling, pacing, and practical effects.
Well,
can we get that? Somebody out there, come on.
Isn't that what people are kind of doing with this new Barbarians movie? They're trying to say that this Whitest Kids You Know guy is the new, which ironically, it's like the Whitest Kids You Know comedy troupe is who made this like most popular horror movie of the year or something. But
I'm going to come out there and say that's not a horror movie. At no point in time was I scared
or horrified.
No. I got more anxiety playing Alien vs Predator, which is an Xbox game that came out like 12, 13 years ago. I got more anxiety playing that recently than I did watching that movie.
Well, we've been on Batman probably too long. What's another hit you got, Dakota?
You know, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I love The Northman, top to bottom. No
Okay.
criticisms. Solid storytelling, just incredibly well directed. And it's so funny though, because the main actor, he was kind of like raked across the coals because he was in Kong vs. Godzilla, and people were calling him like a black hole of charisma. And then this movie comes out, and it's like he deserves an Academy Award.
Well, let's be honest. When you're a human in a Godzilla movie, I mean, you're just there to so that somebody can speak English to keep the story moving. It's not really you don't go to a Godzilla movie looking for charisma from the humans. They're just there to keep the story moving.
Yeah, but man, just I really have no criticisms against this movie.
I think what's more interesting with him, with Alexander Skarsgård, was that he famously was in that Legend of Tarzan, where he played Tarzan with Margot Robbie, and that was supposed to be a big deal movie, and it was supposed to be kind of his kicking off point to being this bigger star, and Margot Robbie was still this rising star because that was after
It was after
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, it was after Suicide Squad, I think.
And then that just went out like a wet fart, and so he's kind of had an interesting career.
Yeah.
Through the years.
I think very famously he kind of got put on the map because of, was it True Blood?
Well, because of his dad.
Come on, man.
Just kidding.
Speaking of which, his dad is in this, which I found interesting.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I haven't got around to watching The Northman.
Oh man.
I have heard a lot of positives about it.
Okay, I was not the biggest biggest fan of Robert Eggers' last film.
Well, that's some of my hesitancies. I'm not a fan of most of his stuff, if any.
What are you talking about? You love The Witch.
The Vivitch.
Yes. You love The Witch, Steven. Come on, don't lie to yourself.
What else? Because what else has he done? What's that other one he did? Oh, The Lighthouse or something.
That one I didn't.
Some sort of weird movie.
I didn't care for that one. So excited he's doing the remake. The remake of a remake. Nosferatu is his next film.
Oh, funny.
Which recently,
is he gonna do it in black and white?
Oh, wouldn't that be fun? A lot of people forget that actually already had a remake. I think it's from the 70s. And then there was that weird movie with Willem Dafoe where it was like about the making of Nosferatu.
Yeah, it was like a fake making of Nosferatu
Yeah.
where he's playing Nosferatu, but he's actually a vampire
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. Yeah, there was one in the 70s that didn't Werner Herzog do it,
Yeah.
of all people? Yeah.
But hey, man, I wish him all the luck. I think it's hilarious. Some of the criticisms about this movie was like it's all white actors, and I'm just like, but
Isn't it so funny when you do a movie set in a specific time period and they're just like, you know what annoys me that everybody is time period accurate?
Yeah, and that's the weirdest criticism. It's like I'm pretty sure there weren't black people running around Scandinavia 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
And there's also a reason the Scandinavians, just adapted to being so pale. Because it was freaking cold. You're always
Right.
wearing stuff, so it's not like your skin's ever going to get real dark.
All right, but
Oh, man. Good stuff.
little historical fact about this. Apparently, this story actually goes back quite a long time. It's one of the sagas, as they call it, and
Okay.
It was the inspiration for Hamlet.
Really?
Yeah, if you actually rearrange the main character's name, you actually get Hamlet.
Oh, interesting. So the storyline of this is kind of a pseudo Hamlet storyline in the
Yeah.
North in the Norse world. Okay, because that seems to be kind of his thing. He finds kind of interesting things from the past and then develops it into a story, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what his other movies have kind of been too?
Yeah, that's he based The Witch kind of on like stories of witches from the 18th century.
Yeah, not
Um,
necessarily accurate,
yeah.
but certain things he found from the Puritan period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um I guess the one criticism I have of this movie is Nicole Kidman kind of doesn't really fit right in the rest of the movie.
Is it because she has plastic surgery in the Norse world?
No, it's just okay, they age up people
Okay.
as the story goes along. But she just looks the same.
It's the plastic surgery, Dakota.
And then, well, not just that, but it's like you couldn't find an actress who's like about 50 that looks like she's like early
Sure.
40s.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, this is weird because there's like a little scene where she kisses her own son, played by Alexander Skarsgård,
Like romantically, or what do you mean?
just like passionately, and it's like it's like what the hell was that? And it's funny because they played a married couple in like an HBO series. So it's like, what the hell's going on here?
Well, he's got to be a little younger than her though in real life. Well, I mean, I know they aged her up in this, but in the I don't know what that noise is. Just disregard the jackhammering. Isn't he like just slightly older than us? I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, Nicole Kidman's kind of.
That's
around.
disgusting. Only men are allowed to be older and date younger women. What in the world?
You know what, man?
Uh.
Johnny Depp has been getting away with this crap for so long.
Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
All right. Leo DiCaprio is.
Isn't there like a 15, 16-year age gap between him and Margot Robbie?
Well, I'm sure
It's noticeable.
because she's younger. You know, she's younger than us.
Yeah.
So I mean, but she was in that movie with Will Smith too, and
Well,
there's a age gap there.
he still looks like he's about 30 though, which is weird.
Yeah, well, he might be aging a little harder now that everybody is getting on him about the slapping incident. But
You know what? I don't care about that. I still want a dead shot movie, man. Or,
Oh,
or
God.
at least want him injected back into the Suicide Squad.
yeah, we'll see. Yeah, well, who knows? We'll see what James Gunn has up his sleeve, I guess.
You know, he's a very actor driven director. So maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, he was one of the high points, I think, of the first movie, and I'd really like him to come.
One
back.
of or the
the high point. Him and the makeup that went into Killer Croc.
Yeah, it won an Oscar.
Suck
Oh.
it, Marvel.
So funny that the first Suicide Squad won an Oscar. Oh,
You know,
it's
it-
funny every time I remember.
Yeah, and then Black Panther won how many? The one they were putting up.
Oh man,
Okay, now we're just
I don't
getting
know.
petty. I
We're
suppose
we're
we should
getting
move
petty.
on.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So this was one that was a hit for me. We were talking about. I think it was streaming only. If Dakota, back me up on this, but Prey, was it a streaming only release? Did it go to
is.
theaters?
It is, which is unfortunate because, man, I feel like this would have raked in a few $100 million.
I don't know what the budget was, but you do kind of wonder if it would have done all right in theaters. And I would have actually probably, I maybe would have gone to the theaters to watch it. And,
Yeah.
and honestly, now thinking on it, it would have been an all right movie to see on the big screen. I think it would have pulled you into the world a little better. Kind of feel the anxiety of the whole situation, just because the director of this, which this is only like his second big movie. He did 10 Cloverfield Lane,
Which you love.
which I'm a big fan of, and then he did an episode of Black Mirror. I think with Wyatt Russell, the one with Wyatt Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought Prey was great. I know people can have like their little huffy moments about, and I could be this way too. How this 90-pound girl can take on a predator, But I feel like this movie does a good job of kind of explaining that enough where you kind of let it go, I guess.
Well, she has help taking it on.
She has help, first off, yeah.
And I don't, man.
I think my biggest gripe with the movie isn't that so much as would she have actually gotten away with being so feisty and just being like, no, I'm not going to do the women stuff. I'm going to go out and hunt.
Well, she gets beat up by her own people, man.
She
Like,
does, but at the same time, she just kind of, I mean, they show her a few times, like very obviously, just like walking the other direction out into the forest, and stuff. And maybe I don't know. I wasn't there. Maybe this did happen, in these Native American cultures, and because he did have these exceptions to the social norms, and she could get away with it. But that was kind of my biggest thing, because it was just like, I don't know, it just feels like, when you look back just in any culture, when someone would try to do something outside of the social norm, it just seemed like they just couldn't get away with it.
Yeah.
It was like, get in line or we're like practically going to lock you up or something. But I don't know. But yeah, she did get bullied / beat up pretty harshly a few different times in this movie too.
I think story-wise, my one criticism of this movie is they had the pistol from Predator 2 in this. It's like, why? Why would you do that?
The Predator 2 pistol was a bit much, but it was like, again, and it kind of came out of left field a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't because you had these French trappers, but
Well,
it was a little left field still.
It kind of puts a dark cloud over the movie because, like, okay, at the end of the movie, she has this pistol, and it's like that means a predator came back and claimed the pistol.
Well, that's the thing. It does put a dark cloud, but who cares? We're getting into spoilers, I guess. But spoiler, if you watch the credits and they're showing like the tapestry story continuing on after she defeated the predator, and they just show a million warships show up, and so I think you are kind of led to believe that possibly
they all died.
They all died. And so I don't know what the point of that credits thing was, if they're trying to if maybe they don't all die and they're setting up a possible second prey. I don't know.
Here's the thing though. Ever since this movie came out, now it's like you could do Predators at any time period.
Yeah.
Like having Spartans take on the Predator.
Yeah.
Having Samurai take on the Predator.
I mean, I think it would get a little silly if you did that.
I
think this one did work, and I kind of hope it stays kind of as it is.
You know what I'm really rooting for? Robin Hood takes on the Predator.
That would be so stupid.
You know what?
I would like, and it has to be like an Errol Flynn version of Robin Hood, where he's just like at every moment he's just ready to laugh.
I'd be okay with that. I would be so on board with that.
Fun fact for you.
You know what? Three Musketeers,
Three Musketeers
take on the Predator. Hell yeah!
Yeah,
It's in the open domain.
And then of course it comes down to D'Artagnan versus Predator or something. Yeah.
Halfway through the movie, an alien egg shows up for no reason.
How about Winnie the Pooh versus the Predator? Because he's public domain now too, Dakota.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Winnie the Pooh was strapped. I remember those cartoons. He's got a shotty sitting around.
He
bedroom.
is just full of fluff. How is a Predator going to kill him? So, oh man,
you find out Eeyore's the last one standing. Yeah, the real hero of the story.
It ain't much, but I have a gun. Yeah, it would get silly, but I do feel like as like a one-off story, this was a lot funner than I thought it was going to be. It was like a kind of a fun little ride. So,
yeah, I think, man, I got more enjoyment out of this than I think I have the last two sequels to Predator.
Yeah. Well, what were the last two? The Predator, which, yeah, okay. And then what was the one before that?
Oh, I suppose it was Predators,
which is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty fun. But yeah, okay. Well, okay, let's pretend the Predator never happened. Easy to do, right? Which one do you think? Do you enjoy more, Predators or Prey?
Oof, Predator,
Prey.
Prey, definitely.
Yeah, probably just because I don't know, there's a few Topher Grace things that kind of almost ruin Predators, but he's a bit much in that. But yeah, so it's pretty good. So Dakota, do you have another high point of the year? And then we'll do a couple more and probably wrap it up so we don't get too long.
Okay, I like this film, but only after some very deep thinking.
Some soul searching,
Yeah.
a few walks, kicking around some stones.
Yeah, I am referring to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Okay, I saw this in the theater, and then if you would ask me my thoughts on the movie afterward, I would just like probably stare at you blankly.
Mm.
Because originally I'm like, what was that? Like that what? Like I don't even know what that was. But
It was a bit muddled.
I watched it 3 times and I'm like, okay, I enjoy this story for what it is. I really love you kind of could feel that Sam Raimi injected some horror into the MCU. And no, I'm not just talking about, those dime store Avengers getting killed. That's what they were, folks. The dime store Avengers. And here's one thing that makes me mad. And once again, comic book geek. So they brought Patrick Stewart back, and he's got the chair from the animated series, and
and the mind waves.
Yeah, and then they do a little. It's so brief you might miss it, but the little kind of opening theme from that.
Oh
animated
yeah,
show. Yeah, they did it very briefly, and then he just gets killed. Like,
I mean, not immediately, but within that same scene, and it's very. It was very odd. Yeah.
One of the most powerful characters in the Marvel universe, and he just gets taken
Reed
out.
Richards is supposed to be the smartest man in Marvel, and he was an idiot. And so maybe that's what you're supposed to believe about that particular universe is like they're kind of the dumber versions of these characters because Reed Richards wasn't terribly bright.
Like they brought Anson Mount back to play Black Bolt from that terrible show.
That was okay. Of any like surprise in that movie, John Krasinski was kind of a surprise, but Anson Mount's Black Bolt coming back, I about wet my pants. I was just like, "Are you kidding? Is this real? He's in this?" And it's like it's in a way it's them acknowledging Inhumans, but at the same time it's like, who even remembers the Inhumans except for just the few of us who just thought it was this funny, weird TV show they tried to do?
We thought Hugh Jackman's Wolverine was going to show up. We thought Deadpool was going to show up.
Oh yeah, Tom Cruise was supposed to be in it. They had so many rumors going around. Tom Cruise is going to be an Iron Man variant.
Here's the thing, though. God, what was the last James Bond? I can't think of his name.
Daniel Craig
was supposed to show up as Baldur, Thor's older brother.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was and that rumor was one of those like, oh, it's definitely happening rumors. Yeah, and
which
then
apparently the only reason he didn't was because of COVID restrictions. He was like, I'm not venturing out of my house.
Maybe that's why it was such a big rumor.
But it's just
James Bond was scared of the sniffles.
It's like, okay, Spider-Man No Way Home, I think, spoiled us. Because it gave us what we wanted,
and did a good job with it.
Yeah, and then this movie it didn't.
Yeah, and they came out so close to each other.
It went halfway. These half measures, Kevin Feige, aren't working anymore. Stop teasing me and just go all in, man. Go all in. You own the film rights to everyone, apparently, except for Namor.
And they don't quite have the Hulk totally yet. Like they can't do a Hulk solo movie yet, but they should be able to soon.
I mean,
something.
I honestly don't want them to.
But I mean, that's another one that they don't quite have all of the.
After everything I've seen Marvel do, it's like, no, you don't.
Well,
I don't think you got the chutzpah
to
do.
And it kills me that this is a hot take because it shouldn't be a hot take. but it is. But She-Hulk was awful. and I'm shocked at how many people don't think it is.
You know, I said to some people online, is like, I'm not interested. Like, none of these. I sat through WandaVision, and then I just canceled my Disney Plus subscription because it's like, is this I knew every single show they rolled out with was not going to be what it's supposed to be. Even Moon Knight, I'm like, this is not going to be what the comics were. It's not going to be funny. It's not going to be. You aren't going to see a what's his name, Mark Spector.
Yeah.
You aren't going to see a schizophrenic, but a funny schizophrenic side of Mark Spector.
Yeah, it didn't really do much funny.
You aren't going to have the meta commentary, which apparently She-Hulk just butchered on their show.
Dakota, it was perfect and hilarious. She jumped out onto the Disney Plus screen and she went and confronted Kevin. Get it? Kevin. But it wasn't Kevin Feige. It was a robot or something. I don't know, stupid.
You know, here's the thing. So Marvel was pillaging the Rick and Morty writers for a while there. Like, hey, instead of pillaging all these writers, how about you just try to actually be funny? If that's what you're aiming for.
Maybe if they've truly had the Rick and Morty writers writing these things, maybe what we're finding out is they're not that funny. Outside of that one thing that people liked.
Well, I mean, Dan Harmon, I think, is the mastermind slash brainchild of that whole universe. And man, they do so much comic book related stuff, except for time travel, the alternate universes, the theory of, well, this is going to happen anyway, so I just escalated. They do so much in that show, and they've been stealing their writers. I think some of them have been working on the Marvel shows, and it doesn't show at all. I know I haven't seen anything outside of WandaVision, but I watch YouTube videos where the people break down these episodes, and it's like, so glad I sat this one out.
And it's interesting because sometimes I'll even watch the breakdowns, and I've watched a few more than you have, but I'll even watch the breakdowns of the people who liked the show, just because, you know, obviously you can get a bias when you just watch the people who didn't like it, where they can sometimes you can make it sound worse than it is, but then you got to remember that the other side can make it sound better than it is. But even when I watch the breakdowns of the people who liked the show, I'm like, this sounds terrible. You know, so it is kind of funny.
Okay,
how that's gone. But yeah, that's the thing with this Doctor Strange is, like, I don't know, it wasn't a train wreck. It was kind of one I had on my meh. Like, it wasn't really a hit or a flop for me, because I watched it a second time, and I did enjoy it better the second time because I was able to just kind of sit back and enjoy the Raimi-isms, because there was a lot of good little, like, you could see Sam Raimi's finger here and there. But I think they should have just, it didn't feel like he was allowed to go full Raimi.
Yeah, the fact that Bruce Campbell's little cameo in this is one of the high points really says a lot about how many criticisms there are of this show.
Yeah.
Or low points, I guess. But this movie was, I don't know if you heard about this. This movie was like heavily reworked.
I could see that.
Yeah. Apparently the America Chavez character was just much more annoying. She was kind of like a know-it-all.
Well, they definitely fixed that, because she's basically a non-character in the movie that came out. It's like,
yeah. Which hell of a thing to have, like, your character who doesn't have a handle on their powers, kind of like, telling Doctor Strange how it really is.
yeah.
But hey, you know what? At the end of the day, I love the message this sent. The sent that this young girl who didn't really have a grasp on things just needed a father figure in her life, and then she straightened out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the real message of the show.
All right. Well, I suppose we better move on from Doctor Strange now. We have a tendency to get caught in our loops of rabbit trails. but that's all right. So let's see. I suppose now would be as good a time as any to touch on what was the biggest movie of the year, at least so far, and probably I'm guessing we'll keep that, being that a lot of the new movies can't be released in China. But Top Gun Maverick. Were you surprised that this was that this essentially is probably going to be the number one movie of the year?
No, I did not think it was going to even be as big as it was. Here's the thing. I figured it was going to be a Force Awakens style movie.
It kind of, even honestly, the trailers made it seem like it was going to be like that. Like
Yeah.
nostalgia.
Like callbacks, but I think this is a better film than the original one.
Yeah.
Even
That's the crazy part.
it is kind of unfortunate they didn't do anything with Kelly McGillis's character though.
Sure.
Yeah. The Val Kilmer kind of parts were a little jarring, but unfortunately he is dealing with cancer.
Yeah. You
And-
know what though? I thought they handled that really well though. They made the Iceman character still work, and you kind of ended up by it, because if you can buy the mission they're trying to pull off, because that's pretty much, this could have been almost a Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
I feel like you buy Iceman, and I mean, my understanding anyway is that was a deal breaker for Tom Cruise. He's like, Val Kilmer has to be in this movie. Was my understanding was that he really fought for Val Kilmer to come back. I think the most jarring thing in this movie for me was how often he was called Pete.
Yeah.
I feel like they barely even say his first name in the original Top Gun, and he's getting called Pete all the time in this movie.
Yeah.
Which was really jarring. But man, I mean,
I like this movie so much. I'm not even gonna make a joke about the age difference between Jennifer Connelly and Tom Cruise.
but is there much of an age difference? She's probably 50 or 52, right? And what is he?
He's in his 60s, man.
Maybe.
He's older in this film than Tom Skerritt was in the original,
That's funny to think about.
which is weird because he doesn't look anywhere near as old as
No,
Tom Skerritt. Kind of always did look old though.
a little bit. 'Cause
Like-
even in Alien,
Yeah,
he looked older than he probably was.
even when he was supposed to be in his prime. He
yeah,
was
it's kind of like Ed Harris. I mean, Ed Harris has always looked 50 years old.
even in the right stuff, he looks.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Although, I'm only gonna bring this up because you actually get to see his hair. In the first Creep Show, he does look he looks about 30, but I think he was younger than that maybe.
sure,
But he apparently had blonde hair back when he was young.
I could see that.
Although you could tell he's going bald pretty early in that film.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the whole Steve Martin thing with getting the white hair early. But yeah, I don't know. Tom Cruise, I don't know if he's made a deal with the devil or what's going on, because
You know what?
it doesn't look, you can tell when people have had a lot of work done, and it doesn't feel like he's had a lot of work done either. It's just like, I don't know.
I'm gonna throw this out there. My mother right now is 69 years old.
Okay.
She doesn't look that age. And even my dad doesn't look his age. It bothers me so much.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because if you look at my mom's cousins, they look their age. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to call anyone out here, but I'm just saying, like, my mom is held up well, so maybe it's just a throw of the dice. Some people get lucky.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Yeah,
Uh,
I feel like I finally do look my age.
You still look like you're like late 20s, man.
Yeah,
Come
I
on,
don't
you're-
know about that.
Speaking of not throwing people under the bus, some of the people we went to college with definitely look older than you.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dakota, you and I just hit the genetic lottery, much like our parents. They don't look their age.
I am losing my hair though, because I used to have a pretty serious widow's peak, which is why I never cut my hair very short.
The Eddie Munster.
Yeah, I had an Eddie Munster widow's peak, man. It's gone. It's gone. It's
Hey.
level. It's
Well, see,
level now.
blessing in disguise. Yeah, so, I mean, what do we say about this movie that hasn't been said? But I think the crazy part about it is I would say that the biggest compliment I could give this movie, because this is what it is. It's like it's a sequel more than it is a reboot, obviously, but it's nostalgia done right, I guess would be the way to put it. Because there's
Um,
obviously still a lot of nostalgia in this, but I don't feel like any of it was ham fisted. I don't feel like any of it was. I didn't roll my eyes this whole movie. They kind of navigated their way well, even around the whole playing a game on the beach, butt slapping. Like I even felt like they handled that well in this movie, where that was even, like wasn't weird.
yeah,
And so that's where I think it comes back to what you said, where it's kind of a better movie.
and here's the thing. I think Tom Cruise doesn't get enough credit for this. He's genuinely funny, and not like in an Ant-Man
Sure.
funny that ruins the movie type thing. But no, he's even when they all right, spoilers alert, he steals an F-14, which is what he flew in the first movie.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
And then there's a scene where these enemy pilots kind of surround him, and they're doing the signs like, "Well, don't know what that is. Don't know what that is." Either." And it's kind of it really lightens the mood.
Yeah.
And right before, man, the end, I thought, oh man, they're dead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but this was so much fun,
Mm-hmm.
man. This from top to bottom, beginning to end, so much fun. Serious movie, but kind of lighthearted. By the way, thought it hilarious. John Hamm kind of refers to Tom Cruise's character as being a relic. It's like, bro, you're not that much younger than him.
I really enjoyed seeing John Hamm play kind of a jerk. I thought he played that role pretty well.
Oh, did you miss the entirety of Mad Men? Because
Yeah, well, I didn't watch Mad Men, but and that is different though. Like, I guess I mean like this kind of jerk, like he's kind of a jockey jerk.
yeah.
Because I feel like
Interestingly,
he's one where he likes to play kind of a goofball a lot now, which I think is kind of funny. Maybe Mad Men wore him out on being serious all the time, but
Yeah, it's kind of a shame we never got. Apparently, before Ben Affleck decided to be Batman, he was in the running.
yeah, that'd be interesting. I know a lot of people fan casted him for Captain America at some point too.
Well, he's got that chin. That,
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
and he's actually quite tall too,
yeah.
which I think Tom Cruise has it in his contract that if a tall actor is on set, they can't be standing next to him.
Is that why he's sitting the whole time?
Yeah, because Tom Cruise not a very tall man. I think him and Tobey Maguire are the same height, which is like 5'7".
Honestly, I bet Jennifer Connelly's taller than
She-
Tom Cruise.
She is. I
Yeah.
mean, isn't she like 5'11" or something?
And there's another person where, we're talking about she's like 50, 52 or whatever. She's beautiful in this movie. She's another one where she's just like, she's aging so gracefully. And she doesn't have like weird like butt fat in her lips or whatever these women do to themselves now. I don't know.
Well, she was always gorgeous.
But
yeah,
she's older now. And I
Yeah.
mean, she's just like, I would say that she's arguably just as beautiful now as she's ever been, which is crazy. She's just aged so well through the decades.
yeah.
So-
I think Rachel Weisz also it's kind of up there. But yeah, don't cancel us, man. We're just quoting facts here. I know.
Well, cancel us for complimenting older women. How dare we?
Hey, man. Just going back to it. Some people age like wine. Some people age like milk. I'm throwing myself in the milk category because yesterday at work I had to keep bending over and I was like, ugh, every time I
Wow.
had to stand back up.
That's a different kind of aging. You can look good and still bend over and be like, ah. Oh, but yeah, Top Gun, man, just crazy how I was like, and it's a breezy movie too. I don't even know how long it is.
I think it's a little over 2 hours.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where you're never thinking about the time. It's like it's just a breezy, fun movie, and so it's and I don't know, it's another thing you hear people say where it's like, Tom Cruise, love or hate his whole real life stuff. He's really one of the last movie stars in this sense where he really does want to make stuff that people are going to love. And I think The Mummy is the exception to his rule, where I think that's true for a lot of his movies.
Because I will never get tired of this. the man behind that movie was also from the J.J. Abrams School of Filmmaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're just gonna blame him, guys.
Well, the Mummy, it was a lot of things went wrong, including Tom Cruise's own ego. But I mean, that was just the icing on the cake for everything went wrong with that thing. But this movie was definitely a case of all the right things coming together. I'm not even a real Miles Teller fan. I liked him in this. It was great to see Lewis Pullman have a good role. As another pilot, it's Bill Pullman's son.
Yeah.
So just really good stuff. Yeah, there were, and like I said, all the callbacks I feel like work. But that being said, if you had never seen the first Top Gun, this is still an enjoyable movie, which I think benefits it to probably why it's doing so well. Is that you can enjoy this as its own movie too. I enjoyed Tom Cruise and this director's first movie they did together too quite a bit. Oblivion.
Yes, which I believe we covered. We went to see it in theaters, and then
Yeah, did we do one on that? I don't know, because but it's definitely I feel like it's kind of an underrated sci-fi movie. Like definitely one of Tom Cruise's best sci-fi movies. Because he's done War of the Worlds, Minority Report,
I
a few others.
I honestly don't care for his version of War of the Worlds.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and so Oblivion,
which that's
is
a Steven Spielberg movie, and it's like,
Yeah.
man, it's
and one of his movie, he had bought the rights to make War of the Worlds like for years before, and has been like waiting to do it, and it was unfortunate. But so definitely we have a few other honorable mentions we want to bring up, ones that were neither high nor low, but we enjoyed. And for me, one was Uncharted. I just found that to be it wasn't anything, but it was fine.
It was a good popcorn flick.
Yeah. If you just want to sit down and watch Indiana Jones light, there you go, Uncharted.
I really feel like with a better director, though, this would have been
Could have been something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because who was it? Why do I feel like it was Ruben? It wasn't Ruben Fleischer, was it? The guy who did Zombieland?
I want to say it was. And here's the thing. I never played the video game, so I can't say I'm a fan. So I can't come out and be like, oh, well, this was wrong. Yeah, it was Ruben Fleischer.
That would have to be my caveat too. Is I went into this as just watching a movie with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. Nothing about Mark Wahlberg not having a mustache. That didn't mean anything to me when people were mad about that. So so we'd both be in the same boat as like we were watching it just as a movie.
Yeah, good popcorn flick.
Yeah.
Probably should have been a summer movie. It probably would have raked in
It felt more like a summer movie, but I think Sony, it sounded like, wasn't sure what it was going to be as far as if it was going to do well or not, and so they tried to ride the coattails of No Way Home.
Man, can we just take a moment to talk about all the L's Sony is taking lately? Like Morbius, I didn't see it. I'm not going to see it. Sorry.
And they put it back in theaters.
Yes.
And did they put it back in theaters? Were they in on the joke?
Don't think they are.
Because it got put back in theaters because it was trending on the internet, but it was trending on the internet for all the wrong reasons of people making fun of it.
When we were talking about coming back and reigniting the podcast, I threw this out to Steven. I was like, of course we should. It makes sense to come back in the year when the Halloween franchise came back again.
Yeah, which is another. We should talk about that one. That's another kind of one you wanted to bring up quick, right?
Yeah. Okay, real quick here. Like this movie, it's the best Halloween movie.
He's referring to, what's it called? Halloween
Ends.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not going to apologize, and I'm going to list why I like this movie.
Now, for those of you who have listened to our podcast through the years, if you remember, Dakota hated, like with a passion, the last Halloween movie.
Evil Dies Tonight. Oh, I will never get that out of my head.
So now you liked this one.
Yes, it is a total departure from the last movie. And okay, I feel like the criticism against this movie is that Michael Myers isn't in this film. Michael Myers isn't Michael Myersing. Michael Myers needs to Michael Myers forever. But it's the main character is this kid called Corey Cunningham. There's an accident at the beginning of the movie. Not his fault. It's the little twerp, and unfortunately, this little twerp dies, ruins his life. Kind of spirals in it, and the other kind of main character is Laurie Strode's granddaughter, and it's the story kind of revolves about this kid who, not necessarily evil, kind of slowly gets pushed to that end. And yes, Michael Myers, you eventually find out, is living in a sewer. He's old, which he is. He would be. You know, this dude's like in his 70s. He's old. The kind of that manic frenziness that he had in the last couple of movies has left him. And I think the theme was that the evil's gone out of him and has kind of taken hold of this Corey character. And that's actually kind of shown in the very beginning, because you see the jack-o'-lantern, which all the Halloween movies kind of open with, and they're kind of, another jack-o'-lantern will just burst out of them. So it kind of, in a way, I was like, okay, this is cool, setting the tone a little bit. And yes, Corey and Michael Myers team up and they start committing murders. And it's a pretty good film until the last 20 minutes. And then
so you liking this one, there still is a little bit of a disclaimer here that they didn't quite wrap it up well.
Here's the thing. There's weird story beats kind of in throughout this movie. You find out the sister of one of the characters from the last movie like comes out at Laurie Strode and was like, "Oh, you didn't know her, you didn't care." People are accusing Laurie Strode of getting this mentally ill man all worked up, which isn't the case. He was a psychotic killer that escaped, man. Like, what? You can't blame her for that. There's a scene where Corey and Michael Myers kill this, I don't even want to say couple. It's more like a perverted old man and his extremely sexed up underling. They kill them, and then it immediately cuts to you see like this couple on a motorcycle, and I thought it would have been hilarious if it was Michael Myers kind of gripping onto Corey. But no, it would have been funny. I thought it would have fit with this tone, which is all over the place. But the end, of course, comes down to what you saw in the marketing, which is Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, the final fight. And that's when it dovetails, and I stopped caring about this movie. Spoiler alert, Michael Myers dies, and they throw him in a giant wood chipper. Yeah.
That seems pretty definitively dead.
Yeah. I don't know why they did it, because this movie is going to get rebooted here in a couple of years. The whole franchise. This shouldn't have been a franchise. It really shouldn't. This had more reboots than the DC universe at this point in time. It has. Like,
yeah. Because the Rob Zombie ones, they're considered reboots, right? But they're just
they're their own thing.
They're just kind of their own thing, though.
But you had Halloween 3, which tried to take the franchise in a different...
Yeah, they tried to anthology it.
Yeah, and then everyone hated that one because there's no Michael Myersing in this Halloween film. This movie sucks. Michael Myers has to be Michael Myersing forever.
Is that why that movie sucked, though? Because there was no Michael Myers?
Yeah. I mean, I like the film. It stands on its own. The storyline gets a little bit weird. I remember when I watched it originally, I was like, this is so stupid. Michael Myers isn't in this film. So I've been there. But as you get older, you watch it and you're like, hey, man, this is a pretty sweet film. And then, of course, you had Michael Myers 4, The Return to Michael Myers.
Oh, yeah.
And then...
H2O, was that considered a reboot?
That is a reboot. It discounts 4...
And then they bring back Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Famously, that was the first time she
Yeah.
famously came back.
But and then you had Halloween Resurrection, which, man, I feel like I have seen more terrible Halloween movies than I have good Halloween movies at this point.
Oh, that seems right.
Yeah. But like I said, someone do like an edit of this movie, and I think it can be saved. I'm serious. It was
Do you think it comes down to there was just the wrong filmmakers? Like this David Gordon Green, maybe just wasn't the right guy.
Here's the thing. He's credited as writing the script along with a couple other people. I think those other people really, really helped make this movie kind of enjoyable. Because I think we've seen that David Gordon Green, left to his own devices, is not a good thing. That's why we get cops talking about sandwiches for 10 minutes. And an old couple that have no relation to the story other than to die.
Well, you gotta have the people who die.
But yeah, really, really not stoked for his trilogy to the Exorcist movies. Not really looking forward to that.
He's gonna tackle that one next, son.
Well,
And that's already been rebooted a few times.
yeah.
Too.
Yeah, he's come out lately and been like, "Oh, I got faith. I got faith in us. We're proven filmmakers. We can handle." And it's like, "Oh boy, you spoke a little too soon, man. Way too soon."
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I think with that, we better maybe Halloween Ends is where we end. We've taken up enough of your time, but we do thank you for listening. Oh, sorry.
I'm not done yet. All right. I'm just gonna throw this out there. Bullet Train.
Oh,
Very fun movie.
Dakota just recently watched that one.
Yeah, it's very action packed. Kind of very actor driven. Interestingly enough. But yeah, good film overall. I feel like the cameos in this got a little out of hand. Chris Evans is in it, like a blink and you miss it type thing. Sandra Bullock is technically in it, but it's just her voice. Zazie Beetz is very briefly in it.
Oh, funny.
But yeah, overall, very, very good film. Had a lot of fun. One of those rare films I actually watched, like, I think 10 hours after I watched it the first time, because I had rented it and then...
Oh, rewatched it?
Yeah. But yeah, very good film.
Yeah, so you could see that. I don't know. We maybe did rant a lot, but there were some diamonds this year still, just like there is any year.
I think yeah, definitely we're getting better movies than we have been for the last couple of years.
I think now that I think we had to get through the ones that were still like left over from COVID. And are you allowed to say that? Is this podcast going to get like muted now or something? The ones left over from the thing that happened, and just all the other stuff. Now I think maybe we're going to get back on track a little bit, and hopefully Warner Brothers does. They've had quite a bit of a shakeup this year, but yeah. So a lot of stuff, but we're going to be talking about some of the upcoming things here as they come out here soon. Probably do some more revisiting of the past, like we like to do, and play around with just a bunch of different things, talking movies like we like to do. So we thank you for listening to this one. We're happy to be back. Yeah. So yeah, we're on Facebook. You can find us there. Keep up on some of the updates there. We'll start to update the Facebook a little bit more. Hopefully you subscribe to us in one of the places, the place where you're listening to this. Be good to subscribe there, whether it's YouTube or iTunes or any of those types of things. That's helpful because then you'll know when the new stuff's coming out and all that jazz. So yeah, we thank you though for listening to this episode. This is Steven.
This is Dakota.
Catch you on the flippity flop.